uh, the version of yourself that most people do not get to see, the one that exists in the quiet, in the evenings when the social performance of the day has ended and you can simply be what you actually are without the slight adjustment that being around people always requires. The one that reads or thinks or sits with music or moves through your own space with the particular unhurried quality of someone who is completely at home in their own company. That version of you, the private one, the one that is not performing anything for anyone, the one that exists in the genuine quiet of your own interior, is the version that someone has been waiting for. Not the public version, not the appropriately warm, socially functional, meeting the requirements version that you deploy in the world with such practiced ease. The private one, the real one, the loner one. And I want to spend a moment with the word loner before we go further because it deserves honest treatment rather than either apology or romanticism. You are someone who genuinely needs solitude, not as a wound, not as the evidence of difficulty with connection or the result of something that went wrong in your relational history, as a fundamental feature of how you are built, as the specific, non negotiable, this is simply true requirement of an interior life as rich and as active as yours. You need the quiet the way other people need conversation. You need the alone the way extroverts need company. Not because you cannot connect, you connect deeply, more deeply than most, when the connection is genuine, but because the depth of connection you are capable of requires the depth of solitude to replenish it. The two things are not in contradiction, they are the same thing expressed in different directions. The private loner quality is not a limitation, it is a signal of the specific interior life rich, genuine depth quality of a person whose alone time is productive in a way that most people's is not, whose solitude is inhabited rather than empty, whose private self is more interesting, not less interesting, than the version on display. Someone has figured this out. Someone has seen enough of the private version in glimpses, in unguarded moments, in the specific quality of how you are when you forget to perform, to understand that what you are in private is something they have been looking for without quite having the vocabulary for it until they encountered you. And now they want it badly. The private version, the real one, the loner one that most people never get close enough to find. Subscribe to this channel and drop the word private in the comments right now, because what I am about to show you the full picture of what this person has been carrying and why the private version of you is specifically and precisely what they have been waiting for is going to change how you see yourself and your effect on someone who has been paying more attention than you realized. Let me start with this person. Who they are, the specific quality of their character and their nature that makes them the one who would recognize and want the private Virgo rather than the public version. They are also private. That is the first and most important thing. They move through the world with a quality of interiority, a rich, active, closely held interior life that most of the people around them do not have full access to. They are not cold, not closed off in the wounded sense. Private in the same way you are private, because there is more happening inside than it is comfortable or appropriate or safe to make continuously visible. Because the real self is something earned rather than immediately offered. because the depth of what they carry requires a certain quality of container to be safely expressed. And that quality of container is not available in every relationship or every context. They have been waiting for someone who understands this. Not intellectually understands it in the way that people can understand things they do not personally experience. Viscerally, personally, this is also true of me, understands it. Someone whose own relationship with privacy and solitude and the specific, rich, interior focused quality of being alive is close enough to theirs that no explanation is required, no justification, no defending of the need for quiet or the preference for fewer, deeper connections over many shallow ones, or the specific way that large social gatherings leave them more depleted than replenished. When they encountered you, when the private version of you began to become visible to them in the specific, unguarded, this is the real one way that it becomes visible to people who are paying genuine attention, something happened in them that recognition produces. The specific, oh, there you are quality of finding something you had been looking for without quite knowing you were looking. There you are, the private one, the loner, the one who needs the quiet and who inhabits the quiet with a specific richness that most people do not bring to their alone time, because most people's interior life is not as active and as inhabited as yours. They found you, and they have wanted you badly ever since. What does secretly waiting mean in the specific context of this person? Because the secret quality of the waiting matters, and I want to describe it accurately. They have been carrying this privately with the specific discipline of someone who understands that what they feel is significant enough to deserve careful handling rather than immediate, unprocessed expression. Who has been sitting with the wanting, noticing it, feeling its quality, understanding that it is not ordinary attraction, but something with more specific roots and more personal significance without yet acting on it fully. The waiting has not been passive. That is important. It has not been the waiting of someone who is hoping something will happen while they stand still. It has been the active, attentive, I am going to understand this better before I act on it kind of waiting. The waiting of someone who is paying attention, who is learning you, who is building through observation and through the specific accumulative quality of genuine attention, a picture of who you actually are rather than who you appear to be. They have been watching the private moments surface, the specific instances when the performed version gave way to the real version, when you forgot to be appropriately social and were simply yourself for a moment, when the interior life leaked through the composed exterior in the form of a genuine reaction or an unguarded opinion, or the particular quality of quiet that you carry when you are actually comfortable rather than functionally comfortable. Each of those moments has added something to their understanding of you. And their understanding has been growing toward the specific, I know who this actually is, quality of someone who has seen enough of the real you to want it with the specific, this is not generic wanting precision that genuine knowledge of a person produces. They do not want a version of you. They want you, the private, quiet, rich interior, needs the solitude, goes deep rather than wide, loner you. The one that is harder to access and more worth accessing than the readily available public version. Let me describe what they find most compelling about the private version of you, the specific qualities that have produced the wanting with the particular intensity it has. The depth. Your interior life is genuinely, specifically, not generic deep. When you think about something, you think about it all the way. When you feel something, you feel it with the specific, complete, every dimension of this quality of someone whose emotional and intellectual life are not separate operations. When you care about something, you care about it thoroughly. The depth is not performed. It is not the cultivated affectation of someone who has decided that being deep is appealing. It is simply what happens when an active, intelligent, emotionally rich interior life engages with the world. This person has felt that depth in their interactions with you. In the way conversations go further with you than with most people, in the way your responses to things have layers, in the way you are interested in the actual substance of things rather than their surface. They have felt the difference between talking to you and talking to people who are less interior. And the difference has made the shallower interactions that constitute most of their social life feel insufficient in a way they did not feel insufficient before they encountered the depth available with you. You have ruined shallow for them. That is the specific quality of what the depth has done, made the less deep feel genuinely inadequate rather than simply less preferred. The self-sufficiency. You are genuinely comfortable in your own company, not performing comfort or making peace with necessary alone time. Actually, genuinely comfortable, the specific quality of someone whose relationship with themselves is sufficient, who is not seeking constant external stimulation or validation or the noise of continuous social contact to feel okay, who can be alone and be full rather than alone and depleted. For someone who is also genuinely self-sufficient, who has the same private, interior rich quality, this is enormously compelling because they have been around people who cannot be alone, who need constant input, who fill the silence with noise because the silence produces anxiety rather than rest. And the specific, I am also okay in the quiet quality they sense in you is the evidence of a compatible interior, of someone who would not need them to be more social than they are, who would understand the need for the separate, quiet time without experiencing it as rejection, who would bring their own fullness to the time together rather than expecting to be filled by it. The honesty. When the private Virgo does speak, when the interior becomes exterior, when the real thoughts and the real feelings and the real assessments of things are offered, they are not managed for palatability. They are honest. With the specific, this is what I actually think quality of someone who does not maintain a sufficiently private interior life to offer it as a separate, honest resource if they spent it all performing appropriate responses. You save the honest version for the real moments. This person has encountered some of the honest version, has felt the difference between the honest version and the publicly appropriate version. and has found the honest version, even when it is direct, even when it is unflattering to the thing being assessed, even when it is simply the true thing rather than the comfortable thing, to be the most attractive version available. Now, let me speak to the badly part, because the wanting is not mild. Not the comfortable, this would be pleasant wanting of someone who has identified something appealing and is open to seeing where it goes. The other kind, the specific, I keep coming back to this. I cannot seem to find adequate substitutes. I want this specifically, and I have been waiting, and the waiting is becoming difficult kind. It has grown. Whatever the size of it when it first arrived, and it arrived with more force than casual attraction arrives, it has grown through every subsequent encounter, through every glimpse of the private version, through every moment of contact that gave them more information about the specific, rich, interior, inhabited reality of who you actually are. Through every conversation that went deeper than they expected, and through every instance of the real Virgo surfacing through the composed exterior, each of those has added to the wanting rather than satisfying it. That is the specific quality of wanting that grows rather than plateaus each encounter, rather than providing enough to quiet the wanting, produces instead the specific, this makes me want more awareness of someone who has had enough of a good thing to know they want more of it, rather than enough to feel satisfied. You have given them enough to want more, not enough to have, enough to know what having would feel like, and to find that the knowing makes the not having significantly less comfortable than it was before the knowing. The badly is the product of enough knowing. The specific, I have seen enough of what this is to understand exactly what I want quality of wanting that only arrives after sufficient information. They are not wanting vaguely, they are wanting specifically you, the private version, all of it in the ongoing, this is in my life, this person is mine in the mutual choosing sense. I want to address something about you and this situation, about your own experience of this person and what the private version of you actually does when it encounters someone who is genuinely interested in it. The private Virgo is cautious about this specifically, about the wanting, about being wanted badly by someone whose own private nature makes them simultaneously more appealing and less legible. Because the private person who wants you is also not showing everything, also managing what they express, also carrying significant interior content that you have glimpsed rather than fully accessed. And Virgo, in the face of significant interiority in another person, in the face of depth that has not yet been fully revealed, does two things simultaneously. It is drawn toward it with the specific, I want to understand this fully quality of someone who finds genuine depth compelling. And it is cautious about it with the specific, I need more information before I fully invest quality of someone who knows the difference between apparent depth and actual depth, and who has been disappointed by the distinction before. Both responses are valid, both are happening in you around this person. What I want to offer is this: the depth is real. What this person is carrying is not the performance of interiority, it is the actual thing. The specific, lived, this is how I am built quality of genuine private person depth, which means the caution is warranted in the general sense and unnecessary in this specific case. The information you are waiting for before fully investing will arrive, and when it does, it will confirm what the part of you that is drawn toward this person is already sensing. The private version of you deserves someone who specifically wants the private version, not someone who tolerates the need for quiet or accommodates the preference for solitude or puts up with the depth because the other qualities compensate. Someone who specifically, precisely, exactly wants that, who has been waiting for it. This is that person. What happens next? What does the energy of this reading suggest about where the secret waiting and the private wanting are moving toward? They are approaching the expression of it. The secret, the privately carried wanting that has been building through the accumulating encounters and the glimpses of the real you and the specific, this is what I have been waiting for quality of recognition that arrived when they understood who you actually are. That secret has a natural endpoint. The natural endpoint of a secret this significant is the telling of it, not the leaking of it through behavior that anyone could read. They are too private for that, too disciplined about what they express and what they contain. The deliberate, this is the moment I am going to tell you something true telling. The specific, I have been carrying this and you should know quality of communication that private people produce when they have decided that the containing of something is no longer the right response to it. They have been deciding for a while now in the specific, I need to be sure, I need to find the right moment. I need to say this in a way that is worthy of what it is, quality of a private person approaching the expression of something significant. Private people do not say important things carelessly. They say them when they are ready and when the moment is right and when the saying can be done in a way that honors the thing being said. They are getting ready, the moment is approaching, and when it arrives, when the private person who has been secretly waiting for the private loner finally tells you what they have been carrying, it is going to arrive with the specific, I have thought about this carefully quality of something that has been held until it was ready to be expressed rather than something that leaked out before its time. What they say when they say it will be worth the waiting on both ends, theirs and yours. Let me close with something I want to say directly to the private Virgo, to the loner, to the one who needs the quiet and inhabits it richly and moves through the world with more happening inside than is visible from the outside. You have spent a portion of your life wondering whether the private version of you, the real one, the interior rich, needs, the solitude, goes deep rather than wide version is something that works in romantic love. Whether the specific qualities that make you who you are in private are the qualities that someone will actively want rather than simply accept. Whether you will find the person who specifically seeks the private loner rather than tolerating them, the answer is yes. The person who specifically seeks the private loner exists, has been looking, has found you is carrying the wanting you badly quality of someone who has searched enough to understand exactly what they were looking for and who recognizes in you the specific thing. You do not have to become more social to be loved. Do not have to become louder or more extroverted or more continuously available or less interior focused. Do not have to apologize for the need for solitude or manage the depth into something more comfortable or produce a version of yourself that requires less from the person receiving it. The private version is the one they want. Specifically, precisely, exactly. Let that be true. Let yourself be wanted as you actually are, rather than as you might perform yourself to be if the performing seemed necessary. It is not necessary here. The private loner is the thing they have been secretly waiting for. And the waiting is almost over. Tell me in the comments, does this find you the specific, this is actually true of me quality of the private loner description? Drop private if this reading landed somewhere real and specific. Tell me if someone came to mind whose own private, interior rich quality makes them both more appealing and more uncertain to read. Tell me if you have felt the quality of their wanting without being able to fully confirm it, because both of you are private enough that the confirmation takes longer to surface than it would between less interior people.